I can already see the Scooby-Doo edit of all our faces on
Oh,
something.
that's
There you go. I like that.
I watched Scoob yesterday on Crave, and it's pretty good.
I love that. I'll have to keep that in the episode. Okay, folks. Welcome to another episode of the 2Ds Podcast. I'm Reg.
I'm Randy.
And we're a couple of idiots trying to figure out the world, one conversation at a time.
This episode of the 2Ds Podcast, as always, brought to you by Manscaped. Now listen up, fellas. 2020 sucked. See, Manscaped, make no bones about it. 2020 sucked.
It's true.
It's almost the new year, which means new balls with our sponsor, Manscaped.
Oh, I'll go.
Insert Reg there.
Yeah, Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and helping 2 million men all over the world get rid of hair on their balls. You're welcome, world.
Boy, howdy. Boy, howdy.
Exactly.
Now, if you let yourself go in 2020 while in quarantine, which let's be real, we all did, Manscaped is here for you to reboot and stay clean and shaved in 2021.
Yeah, we've all added, a couple of pounds to COVID-19, as they say. So this is a nice little thing to kind of make yourself feel a little bit better about yourself, because 2020 has been dog shit. So I'm glad that such nice things exist and you can feel a little bit better.
Exactly, you know. Take a couple pounds off the old body, take a couple inches off the old nutsack.
Inches.
You're good to go. Of hair.
Well, I know, but that's aggressive.
Hey man. Hey, it's like the 70s now, you know. No one's doing nothing here. That's why we need the Manscaped products.
It's just Gandalf down there.
That's right.
But yeah, we all know that 2020 has been rough. Personally, it's just been a bit of a struggle trying to stay upbeat, stay positive, stay active. I had to replace my furnace and my sewer line, which listeners of the show will probably be aware of by now. So 2020 has been kind of rough. So I'm glad that that we can move forward.
Yeah, it's been brutal for everybody. And look, Manscaped is here to give you a fresh start in 2021 with their Perfect Package 3.0. It has all the right tools for the job.
That is right. Come out of quarantine with clean balls thanks to the Lawnmower 3.0. This waterproof and skin-safe trimmer will reduce nicks to your two best friends.
Ooh, that's always nice. The third generation trimmer even has a light to give you the glow up you need in 2021.
Glow up. It's also time to freshen up down there this new year. The Crop Preserver is an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits. Why are you not putting deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? And for the on-the-go freshness, you'll love the Crop Reviver Ball Toner Spray. I've used it. Works. It checks out. I like it.
Oh, it works like a charm. Nice little tingle. Nice little get up and go in the morning.
Get you a little revved up.
Yeah. 2020 was awful, so let's make sure your boys are refreshed, ready for new beginnings in 2021.
That's true. Manscaped even threw in their shed travel bag to keep all your goodies stored comfortably. Speaking of comfort, the Manscaped anti-chafing boxer briefs are also included and are hands down the best underwear you will ever wear. I can speak to both of those things. They're both style, especially the travel bag, stylish, clean, sleek. The underwear is comfy. It's great quality.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the travel bag. I'm a man who likes his travel bags, and this one certainly did not disappoint me.
A man who likes his travel bags. That's such a weird thing to say.
Now, everyone knows that a guy with hairy balls is like the year 2020. Don't be that guy. Okay? Don't. Nobody likes it.
No. Get ready for your next party or your next shindig, your next get-together with, the special someone, and get 20% off and free shipping with the code IDIOTS at manscaped.com.
Your balls will thank you.
They will, as will whoever is rummaging around down there. It's do them a favor.
Oh, yeah.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code IDIOTS at manscaped.com. That is 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use the code IDIOTS. Happy New Year's to your balls.
Happy New Year, balls. Enjoy.
Exactly. Check them out, folks. And joining us this week are two guys kind of doing the same thing, perhaps. Mr. Johnny Wiebe and Jordyn Penner.
What's going on?
Welcome back, Jordyn.
How's it going?
Johnny's finally on the show. Basically, for context, before we started the podcast, before we even had guests, I heard on Flatlands Field and Foul that you were into Bigfoot, and I'm like, okay, I want Johnny on the show really bad. And he's been ghosting us.
About it.
Yeah, he's been ghosting us the whole time.
Yeah, I'm still excited. I'm still excited about that episode. That was come on. I had a long list of notes what I was gonna hit on, and it just never happened. But yeah, it'll definitely happen. Yeah.
Okay, but regardless, I'm glad that you're finally here. Whether it's for it's for a different thing, but at least you're here.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Made it on. I made the cut.
Yeah, you sound kind of echoey. But
Jordyn's been on too, right? So
I have. Yeah, this is my second time on the Two Idiots podcast.
Jordyn's repeat guest.
Two completely different reasons.
2-time.
Yeah, 2-time. Yeah. Speaking of, Jordyn was on. What was that? Episode 10, I think. I was looking the other day.
I want to say 10, yeah.
And from Nashville with like the worst internet in the world, apparently.
Yeah, I have no idea what was going on that night, man. I know maybe I just needed to reset the router or something like that, but it should have not been that bad.
I just blame Tennessee.
Yeah, I like how you guys were in the description. You're like, oh, we were battling Tennessee internet, like I lived out in the sticks or something like that.
Yeah. As we're
like I'm living in a major metropolitan city, but
as we're recording from rural Manitoba, which is
yeah. Exactly.
But so I guess before we dive into it, Jordyn came on. He's the member of a band from Nashville, or at least you were. I don't know if you still are. Why are you back in Canada?
Yeah, just huh?
Why are you back in Canada?
COVID mainly.
Oh.
Yeah, I just decided to come back. There's really nothing going on for me in Nashville anymore, so just decided to come back during the pandemic and be with my family and friends and stuff like that. It just seemed like the right thing to do.
That's fair. Well, welcome back.
Sure.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
It'll be minus 30 tomorrow morning. I'll see how I handle that.
Say that again?
I said it's going to be minus 30 tomorrow. We'll see how I'll handle that.
Is it supposed to be?
4 years. Yeah.
Gross.
Minus
like
37
minus 31
overnight
with,
tonight.
Yeah, with the wind chill, minus 31 in the morning.
Oh, great. Good. Okay, fun.
Yep.
Anyway, on to better things. So you guys are on the show because you started a paranormal YouTube channel, from what I hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Scary stuff. It's definitely, it's different than the Bigfoot thing, but I mean, it's up there in the, looking for something. It's kind of the thing is just looking for whatever mystery is left, or, in this world. There's not much of it left, but if we can capture a piece of it, would be nice to us. So
that's cool. So
great. And I mean, our area is not the worst place to do something like that because there's a pretty big history with, Winnipeg and Manitoba and old shit and the supernatural.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the only problem is especially like Steinbach for sure, but Winnipeg is kind of the same. They're not really open to it. You know what I mean? So like if you want to go to a place and it's known to be haunted, but they don't want that kind of reputation to, be what they're known for. So trying to get into some of these spots is really hard to do. Like it's just back and forth emailing, like, can we come here? Can we, can we stay the night? Can we do this? Can we do that? And as soon as you talk about the paranormal, then they're just like, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just everybody shies away from that around here.
It's probably because of the Jesus connection.
Exactly. I think a lot of it has to do with just the religion, especially in Steinbach. Like it'd be hard for us to get anywhere in Steinbach to do anything.
Yeah, that's fun. Okay, so what's the channel called? When did you start it? How's it been going? How's all that?
So it's called Paranormies on YouTube. We started it, I think, 3 weeks ago. We have 5 weeks of filming, but we've only put up 3 episodes, and it's going pretty well, I'd say.
Nice.
It's got a bit of steam behind it. It's just right now we're finding out things that we need to work on. Like obviously video quality is a huge thing for us. Trying to get into 4K, stuff like that kind of holds us back because it's really hard to watch, especially because everything we shoot is at night. So if our low light cameras, like if our camera's not very good in low light, it's really hard to color grade it and get it to be watchable.
That makes sense. So then,
but we're getting better. I think like every new episode, we're getting a little bit better in some respects. like I think the next episode we're gonna put up, we're both using like better cameras. We got rid of the old camera that we were using, and we're using better quality cameras. We're figuring out new ways to do tests and stuff like that. So yeah, every new episode, it's going to be something a little bit different, something a little bit better, just building.
That's fair. So what's the inspiration? Sure. Like what? I mean, obviously it's paranormal stuff, but like, is this something you guys have been thinking on for a while, or kind of what got the ball rolling?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's definitely been something since when I was a kid. Like we have a lot of weird family stories of the things that have happened. In particular, my brother and like Nick, you guys obviously know Nick, him and I had a weird experience that it happened when we were younger, and we only ever really talked about it when we were older, and it was always sitting in the back of my mind. So I'll tell you the story. Nick and I were at my grandma's house, and we were sitting underneath the pool table in the basement, and we both heard something happen in the next room over, and we had known that we weren't supposed to go in that room for reasons like that we're not really 100% sure why we were supposed to go in there, but we heard a scream come from that room, and it sounded like an animal like roaring or screaming, like growling of some sort, and we both looked at each other and ran up the stairs, and it's almost like my grandma heard it too, because when we got to the top of the stairs, she was waiting there for us. So, and we never really talked about it. I thought it was a dream for my whole life. And then I finally asked him, like, do you remember this happening? And he's like, yeah, I do. So then it's just stuff like that that's kind of like, well, let's, look into this a little deeper. And we'd always tell ghost stories, when we were at my grandma's place there. And yeah, it's just weird stuff happens. So we wanted to look into it a little deeper.
That's interesting. And you guys,
for sure. How about for you, Jordyn? What kicked off your paranormal, I want to say inquisitiveness?
I don't know. I guess like when I was a little kid, I was just like always like really obsessed about like the afterlife and stuff. Like, growing up here, I was just like absolutely like terrified of like going to hell, and like what if there is heaven, and maybe there are spirits that are just kind of trapped between earth and heaven or hell or whatever. So I don't know. I just kind of like, I've always found that like really interesting to think about. And then getting a little bit older, I guess because of that, I started gravitating towards like watching like, a lot of paranormal, like horror movies and stuff like that. And I think the first time like Johnny and I ever did anything remotely like this was, I think he was in high school. I think I was in grade 12. He was in grade 11. And there's a house in Winnipeg called the Macbeth House. And here we are, just like two kids, and with like another one of our friends. We were like 16, 17 at the time. And we were waiting outside that house just from the street, looking at the window to see if we could see anything. And all three of us in the vehicle saw like a shadow move across the window at the same time. And we all like freaked out and just drove out of there. So yeah, it's always been something that I've been interested in, something that, thinking back, it only kind of makes sense that Johnny and I would actually try to do something like paranormal investigation.
Yeah. I mean, think of the adrenaline rush too when we go, like, if like for the first episode we went, drove 2.5 hours out to the Delta Marsh by Portage la Prairie, and we got into a really big lodge, like that 6-bedroom lodge or whatever, and to try and like to walk in there for the first time, it's just adrenaline is just pumping, because it's just, you're in the middle of nowhere. We had to walk 2.5 kilometers to get to the house from where we could park our vehicle. So even if if something would have happened, even if we would have got injured or something, it's still a long way back, and we couldn't get the vehicle there. So stuff like that, just that adrenaline rush too is a huge part of it.
I get that.
Absolutely.
I enjoy old buildings mostly from like an architectural point, but working for who I work for, that we have a lot of buildings that were built in 1910, 1917, and you go through there, and some of these basements are pretty run down and not well lit, and it gets a little bit eerie. But that said, I've never had any of that type of experience. Randy, have you had any paranormal stuff?
I've never really had an experience myself. I was always interested in ghosts as a kid, because my dad, he told me a story about when his grandmother had passed. He would have been around 12 years old. It was about a week after, and he what used to be when he would go to sleep, his grandmother would lift his sheets to check on him to make sure he was sleeping. Right, classic. Kids fucking, is he awake or what?
Mhm.
So he was laying in his bed downstairs, and out of nowhere, his sheet just ever so gently like lifted about halfway up and then flopped down.
Wow.
Like he hadn't moved,
Yeah.
but his sheet just kind of did the thing, and he was like, "Holy shit!" And so there was that, and he had one other thing with his mother after she passed that I can't remember. And so I've always been fascinated by the paranormal. Reg is the only skeptic in the group, I guess, here today.
Mhm.
But like I grew up watching. There was a show that used to air on YTV late at night. It was called Fear. It
Mhm.
had Godsmack's
I remember that.
theme song. And I remember watching that and just being fascinated because basically it was 5 people who would go to like a castle somewhere and then have to stay there the night and do challenges, like
Okay.
go to this room and draw a pentagram and sit in it, and like put some goat's blood here and then sit for 30
Insane.
Shit for YTV.
Yeah,
The
it's
90s
just
were
like
a
this is
different
on
time.
fucking YTV. Holy shit!
Yeah.
But and it just like that show used to scare the shit out of me because my whole family has always been believers in the supernatural and the spiritual, and myself, it would have been shortly after Jerry had passed. I was laying on her bed in her room, just as you do, right? You're kind of thinking back on memories and stuff, and it said, "Hey,
Mhm.
like if you're here, just let me know, do something." And I felt like a distinct, like full hand swipe across just the top of my hand,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Holy shit! Okay, like yeah, it's real. We're all here."
Yeah.
It's
That's amazing, man.
and it scared me, but it was comforting at the same time, just because of who it was and all that. But yeah, that's about my only experience, and I've just always been a big believer in ghosts and the supernatural, and
Mhm.
and
And I'm for us too. I think I'm hoping that we get something too that's more sentimental and not, not everything has to be so scary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When you're looking at this, like to get a nice, to hear some nice stories of, somebody's like in a situation like that, or somebody's grandparents, passing and they're there, and not everything has to be super scary. But I mean, so far
exactly.
for the places we're going, we don't know anybody personally who's, well, except for the second episode we knew personally. But for the most part, it's people are scared of these things, not knowing what they are. So when we're going to these places, we're just assuming they're going to be scary right off the hop.
Mhm.
Even to get something sentimental would still be kind of scary, though.
It
For
would
sure,
be.
for
And I
sure.
think like the whole scary aspect is why people watch paranormal stuff. So, and the more scared we are in videos, the better videos seem to do with views
Yeah,
and
so
stuff
we're
like that. So
constantly trying to put ourselves into like dark rooms and just scare us, because if we're scared, it's gonna be better to watch, but sometimes you just don't want to do it.
Mhm.
Well,
Well, deep down, everyone likes that. Like, I think everyone likes to be scared. Like most people, anyway, or the people like
Yeah.
me. Like, I watch scary movies because I like to have that feeling of like anxiousness and uneasiness. And I don't know why, but
I don't
it's
know why
always
either.
fascinated me.
it's a
Yeah,
human
I
it's a
agree.
human thing. Yeah. I don't know why it's a thing either, but it seems to be that we crave it on some. I don't watch horror movies mostly because a lot of them are bad, and
that's very true.
and
I'm
I
not
just
gonna,
True.
I'm
I
not
just
gonna argue
don't.
that.
Yeah, I'm just not interested in the content necessarily, and because I'm a non-believer, I'm not really scared by it, so I kind of watch it, and then I'll be with Kat or other friends of ours, and they got the blankets up to their face, and they're just like terrified. And there was actually one example of that. We were watching a movie, I forget which one it was, and I was sitting there and kind of yawn, and there was a scene where the camera goes down the hallway and it picks up, or it enters the room in one entryway to the room, and there's an old lady on a rocking chair just kind of slowly rocking, and then it continues down the hallway to the next entrance to the same room, and the chair is empty, and it's very brief, and everyone's like, then nobody reacted, and I asked them, I was like, did you not see the lady in the chair? And they're like, what the fuck, what no. And so then they they rewound it to see it, and then their minds were blown, and I'm like, okay. I don't know. It's not
That
for me.
movie sounds familiar, whatever it is.
Yeah, it was not that long ago, maybe a year or two ago. I
It
couldn't
sounds
tell
like
you.
Insidious or something.
Could be.
It might have been. All the names kind of blend together to me.
And I think too,
Mhm.
there's a difference when you talk about horror movies. I think there's a difference between slashers and like your psychological
For
horrors,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like Paranormal Activity when that came out hit such a Like everyone who loves those ghost hunter shows and all that shit, like that movie hit such a good nerve with people who like paranormal
Yeah.
stuff because it was so well done.
Yeah,
Johnny thought that movie was real when it came out.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone did. They claimed it
You
was found
know
footage.
that
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity is the most profitable movie of all time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
It's crazy, man. Like I think
Yeah.
they made the movie with 15 grand, and it grossed I think almost 200 million.
Blumhouse
like
Studios
that.
or whatever. They're all about that shit.
Yeah, and it was really realistic, like the way that they didn't have credits at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It just ended. I stayed
Yeah.
awake for like 24 hours after watching it because I just couldn't go to bed.
Yeah, I think
Well,
we all
and I
did.
think what they
We
did
went to
really
Randy's
well was
house.
just they
Yeah.
used the negative space well, right? Like just using the music and getting
Yeah.
like the anxiety inducing, just like the low hums as
Mhm.
everything went silent and you're watching the clock go and all that. It was an excellent movie. I loved it.
Yeah, that's great.
Like they really made it seem like anything could happen at any time, but they didn't do that.
Mhm.
You know, and that's what like you knew it could happen, but it wasn't happening, and then towards the end, it just shit hits the fan.
Yeah, the slow build for sure.
They make you
Yeah,
wait so
just
long.
kept you on edge the whole time.
Yeah, the anticipation. I think I remember
Mhm.
we watched it in theaters, and then we went back to Randy's place. I think we spent the night at your house.
Yeah,
And,
we none of us went to sleep till it was daylight out.
Yeah,
Yeah, same with me.
it was a good movie.
Yeah.
That said, I still don't. I don't know. I don't know why.
So
I
what,
don't.
what's the root of your skepticism?
Because frankly, I've never experienced it, and a lot of it, like I've spent some time looking into like scientific kind of investigation into the paranormal kind of research and sort of how they're doing it, and most of it seems to be explainable, or you can account it to the power of suggestion, sort of like some people are able to be hypnotized and others are not, and it often depends on how suggestive the person is or how open they are to the experience. So if in most cases it feels like if you go to a house expecting to see ghosts, odds are you'll see ghosts because either your brain's playing tricks or lightning or wind. I don't know whether it's reasonable or not. That's sort of my view on it.
I can get behind that in a way too, because even though we're doing this, like there's still a big, part of us that are skeptics as well.
Yeah.
We try and dismiss everything away, and I mean, so far, I think we've gotten two things that we can't dismiss away, but
Yeah,
there's things that happen that we just dismiss away. Like
yeah,
and even in this next episode, we have one coming out today and then one coming out next week. So the one that's coming out next week, there's something happens in that one, and that one's hard. That one you can't explain away, but at the same time, it didn't happen to me, so it's still weird. Like if something doesn't happen to you, it still kind of feels like it's hard to believe.
Well,
It's weird. Like if something happens to Jordyn over there, it's still hard for me to put myself in his shoes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it was him.
that's fair.
I think if you watch our videos, like most of what we do is like we debunk a lot of stuff. Like every time we hear a sound, we're not like freaking out like, oh, that must be a ghost. Every time we hear something, we always investigate. We always find out what it was, and there's been a couple of things that we haven't been able to find out what it was. And I think that's honestly a huge part of paranormal investigation. Like even like Ed and Lorraine Warren are two of the biggest, paranormal investigators, ever. Like all the Conjuring movies are based on them. And most of what they did was go around debunking stuff. People hearing noises in their house and they would debunk it. But obviously they came across every now and then like the Annabelle doll and, the witch house and stuff like that. So, skepticism has to be a huge part of what you do when you're a paranormal investigator at any level.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I think all the good shows are the ones that do that. They show that, hey, we are gonna look into this. We're not just gonna go, holy shit, that's a big noise, it's a ghost, and run away.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, the most profitable ones are the fake ones, but nobody wants. I could never allow us to become something like that. Like that's just you watch it once, like Ghost Adventures and stuff. It's like they're on TV, sure they're making money, but it's just like it's a laughing stock. You can't watch it and just be like, that's real.
Well, and then
So it's
and how would you?
and that's not what we set out to do anyway. We didn't, we set out to try and get ourselves answers, especially coming from a Christian town. It's kind of drilled into you that you got to live this way, and you got to go to church and do that, and that's stuff we did as kids. And then it kind of grew into this question of like, once you get older and you can start answering questions for yourself, it's like, is this true? Is it not true? And then, I mean, me personally, I sat on the fence for so long that now it was like, if I can find out if, you know, with something I like, which is paranormal stuff, if I can find out answers that, you know, stuff happens that we can't explain, well, it might be easier for me to make a decision on that.
Sure. I mean, I think some of my, well, probably most of my skepticism probably does derive from the fact that I'm not religious. And I was pretty staunchly, bitterly atheist for a long time. Now I'm agnostically atheist. I don't believe, but I don't really care if other people do. But I think a lot of that early building of that kind of, if the good of it doesn't exist, then why would ghosts or anything else exist? And I'm still pretty firmly in that mindset. Oh, so
see, and that's the same mindset I have been in, you know, and that's why it's like I want to search for something to happen that I can't explain. Like, you know, if you were in a place theoretically and something, you know, grabbed you and you had a mark on your arm or something, that would be impossible for me to explain away. It would give me a better idea of which direction I want to go.
No, that makes sense. What for people who haven't watched the episodes up to date, can you mention a couple of those things that you can't explain away, or do you want to just leave those in the episode for people to discover?
We'll say, but we just won't say which episodes they're in. So then they'd have to watch it if they want to see it.
There you go.
You're kind of echoey, Johnny.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You're kind of echoey. I don't know. Are
I think if Jordyn, can you mute your mic while Johnny's talking?
I think that's
yeah. Problem.
All right, now try, Johnny.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I could hear myself back, and I was pretty sure that's what it was too. So yeah, some of the things that we can't explain. Two things that we can't explain. One already happened, and well, I mean both of them happened, but one's been in an episode, and then there's one that's coming out.
Sure.
So one of the things that happened was we were at a place in Pinawa, and we were at this. It was like a cabin that we got access to go to, and we were kind of doing like our regular walkthrough, and we were doing our, you know, tests, our spirit box, Ouija board, do all that kind of fun stuff. And then we were having drinks afterwards because we were there for the night because we're obviously in Pinawa, and we decided whatever, we'll stay for the night because we didn't really feel like anything was going on. And then we've probably been drinking for 2 hours before we ended up going to bed. But then we ended up going to bed and nothing happened. We filmed at night, nothing happened. So we're just like, whatever. My fiance, Michelle, was going through the footage of when we were sitting around drinking for 2 hours, and she saw the closet door move. And I mean, initially, like, we didn't know what it was. So we put it in there. Originally, that scene wasn't even going to be in the episode because I had already edited the whole thing. I was just about to put it out. So we put that scene in there, and Nick freaked out when he saw it, and he was asking me about it. And that closet door, it sucks that we didn't get it on camera because we didn't even see the footage while we were there. But had we saw it, I would have shown inside that closet door was straight shelving right from the back right to the front of the door. Like as soon as you close the door is pretty much touching the shelving. Mm-hmm. So there was people are gonna be like, we don't know what people are gonna say, like, you know, if they're gonna believe it or not. But at the end of the day, nobody can be inside that closet. So, you know, it's just weird. So that happened that we couldn't explain. And the second thing is we're at a place, what is this, 2 days ago? We don't want to say the spot because,
sure,
I mean, people might know where it is, but it's in really nice condition. It's an abandoned church, and it's in amazing condition. So we don't want people to go there and trash it specifically is why we wouldn't say. But Jordan's tooth got pulled off his head while we were sitting in this place. And we were in a bell tower kind of thing. And there was actually a noose hanging from the bell tower through the concrete floor. And then we got Jordyn to sit underneath it and do like a sensory deprivation. So wear a blindfold and put headphones on and sit there because I wasn't going to do it. And then he did it. And then his tooth got yanked back and he freaked out and ran away. And yeah, we dropped a bunch of our shit while we were trying to run down the stairs too. So then we just got out of there. But that was probably the creepiest thing I've ever seen.
Huh. Yeah. I mean,
that sounds terrible. Jordyn, you speak to that. Like, what was going through your head?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't see anything. I was just listening to the spirit box, and I'm just like, I'm listening, and I'm just like spitting out like any word that I can hear on the spirit box, and suddenly I just feel like my head like get yanked back or something like that, and I kind of thought Johnny like did it just to mess with me. And then I hear him go like, dude, get out of here, or something like that. And I'm like, we ran down the stairs, and yeah. I mean, I didn't see it. I was blindfolded, so I couldn't see anything that happened. But yeah, definitely freaked me out.
That's wild. I'm just watching back now the closet moving
Hmm.
in Pinawa there, and that's I got some chills watching that, man. That's freaky.
It is
Yeah.
weird. It stops so abruptly too.
Because
Like,
Jordan's in the kitchen talking, and Johnny, you're sitting at the table, and you go to get up, and the closet door swings open, probably about 1.5 feet.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're going for a smoke. So we're just heading out to go for a smoke, and all of a sudden it opens. And that's the thing is, if Jordyn wouldn't have went for a sip of his drink there, he probably would have seen it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
'Cause he was kind of facing me that way. But as soon as he goes to sip his drink, then it happens, and that's
Yeah,
how
he
like,
just
it
turns
makes
to
me
the
so
corner
mad,
of the
though.
counter. Yeah.
Like 1 second later, and we would have been able to stay there and actually have an idea of what we were gonna do, because we would have done way more tests and stuff like that instead of just going to bed or just drinking.
Yeah, and like it happens just as Johnny turns his head too, which is really strange.
Right. Reg, if you're looking for it, it looks like you're looking it up right now.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now. While I'm doing that, can you explain what a spirit box is?
Yeah, Spirit Box is it's a modified like handheld radio. And so it sweeps through stations, so you can choose your sweep on it. It goes, and I don't know what these numbers mean, but it goes 100, 150, 200, and it just keeps going up. So you can choose your sweep rate, and you can choose it to sweep in reverse. A lot of people, I mean, we'll debunk that right now. A lot of people think, oh, it's because it's in reverse, the voices are going to be backwards. That's not what it is. It's just in reverse. The stations are going the other way.
Okay.
So it's not like, some people will play it. Some people that do this will play up on that, like, oh no, it's in reverse, so all the voices will be backwards, and you won't be able to, you shouldn't hear a clear word coming through the other ways. That's not true. It just sweeps through stations, and like, I was kind of a big skeptic at first about it, but it is weird when you hear the same voice coming through, and the stations, you're at 103, and then you're at Power 97 or something. You're totally in different areas, and you hear the same voice coming through.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we try and put in. We don't try and put in like every little stupid thing we hear. It's when we hear like clearly a man's voice that's deep coming through on one station, and then like 5 stations later he comes through again. That to me is kind of hard to explain. Or you hear the same, you hear a woman's voice and it's doing that, or you hear one word carry on, or one sentence carry on through 4 stations. So hearing stuff like that, like, it shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't have a sentence that carries on through 4 stations, because that's all different stuff going on the station. So it's technically supposed to be that they can communicate through just the radio waves.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm just watching the video here, waiting for the door to move.
And see, my fiance found it because she obviously likes sitting around watching us drink and seeing what we're bullshitting about, right? So she's watching this. It's like a 2-hour long clip, and then she's watching it, like halfway through she sees that. And I was like, why would I watch it? I know we were just sitting there, so there was no point in me watching it. But I'm glad she did.
Yeah, and for us, that's like one of the worst scenes to like put in the video, because like it's kind of almost, I want to say embarrassing, but if I'm like trying to make it like be a serious YouTuber, I don't want a whole bunch of footage of me just sitting around drinking in my videos.
Yeah,
and it just happened to happen during that time. So yeah.
That's another thing, is we didn't want to be seen really drinking at the spots that we go to, because it just doesn't seem as
you could potentially discredit yourself, right?
Exactly. And then we thought about, like, if we do end up in the future getting like, anything more professional with us, like a sponsor or anything, we don't want to have our whole channel related to drinking. So like, we kind of decided that night that, whatever, we're not going to be, going to places. If we go to a place and we have a beer or two, that's one thing, but we're not going to be drinking to the point where we're going to be missing things like that.
Yeah. So I just watched the door move, and what the fuck?
Explain it, Reg. Come on.
I can't. I in no way does my skepticism mean I'm an expert in any of this.
See, and that's the thing, is you guys know us, but there's how many people out there that are going to be watching this that'll just think there's this person standing in the closet.
Yeah.
Me and Jordyn, and I mean, if anybody wanted to ask me, my wife can vouch for it. Me and Jordyn went there alone. She watched us pack up and leave. But that's the thing, is like, with stuff like this, if you don't want to believe, you're just not going to believe.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to believe to be able to watch it and see something like that. So that one we can't explain, and then the Took one, which is really crazy. I was showing it to Nick yesterday, and we were actually laughing about Jordan's reaction, because he just freaks out. Like, he can't even put any words together. He just starts panicking and running away.
Do you guys have like an agreement?
Like, Nick watched it probably like 10 times, and he's just like, oh my god.
do you guys have like an agreement with each other that you don't fuck with each other? Because I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think like at first when it happened to Jordyn, in the way it looks like to him, it looks like he thought it was me for a second, but then he sees me standing like 3-4 feet away from him. It's a small
And then
room.
he's like, and then he starts freaking out just as it happens. So I'm like, okay, that must have actually been something.
Yeah. But it's crazy. Stuff like that. I think that's the kind of stuff where it's like I'm still skeptical. Like I saw it happen and there's no way to explain it, but I'm still like, I don't know. You know, like because it didn't happen to me is what I mean. Like it has to if it was happen to me, then I'd be feeling a lot different right now.
That's super interesting. Yeah, because I used to, like I said, I love exploring old buildings, both for work and just in general. There was a couple houses they were tearing down in south end of Winnipeg. This was a few years ago, and so I drove up just for fun. And they were both abandoned. One of them actually, the whole back wall of the house had been ripped off because they're getting ready to demolish it. The other one was more totally enclosed and still a house. As I drive up, someone had painted, I think it was a pentagram or something on the driveway just for kicks.
I remember you sending me pictures of this.
Yeah, and then on the garage door, someone wrote "The chamber has been opened," which is funny. Nice little Harry Potter thing. But anyway, and then so I put a pocket knife in my pocket because I wasn't worried about ghosts. I was worried about being attacked by somebody. So
almost guy.
Yeah, pretty much. So I walked into the one that was more open or kind of skirted around the back of it, and I had no reason to be there. Like it's just super trespassing. But as I walk up, all of a sudden a door on the second floor slammed shut. And of course, I just shit my pants, and I'm like, I'm fucking out of here.
Hightail it out of there.
Yeah, but I definitely didn't for a second, and I still don't think it was supernatural because it was open to the outside with wind. It was a pretty easy thing, but I can imagine.
It still scares you in that moment, hearing a loud sound in a strange place with a pentagram on the wall or whatever.
Yeah. And you're on edge as it is. Your adrenaline's kind of pumping, and that's what I mean. So if I went into that expecting to be accosted by ghosts, I feel like then I would have then attributed it maybe to ghosts. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And then it would have been a situation where it's like, oh, you had an experience. But I mean, exactly like I would say probably most people's experiences is they could be explained away.
Yeah.
Randy's there is probably a bit harder to explain away than a lot of people's experiences. Even my experience with me and Nick, who knows, that could have been something coming from a TV upstairs. But when it happened to us as kids, my grandma heard us running up the stairs. There's no way to explain that, 10, 15 years later.
Yeah, it's true.
Like stuff like that. So, and that's kind of fueled me to do this, but it could have easily been explained away. I just can't explain it.
That's
Right.
fair.
Oh, you know what? Thinking about it, there was one more time. So there was a few years ago. Me and my wife Darius, we were all living in my parents' place. My brother had the room. We were in the basement. My brother had the room across from us, and my sister was upstairs. And we were all home. My parents were all out. My dad was out somewhere, and we heard what sounded like pool balls break, like because they have a pool table downstairs. And then we heard like a weird laugh, like a ha ha ha. And so it was fucking like 11 o'clock at night, and we're like, what the fuck? So we go upstairs, we go out of the room, and Matt comes out, and he's like, did you hear that? I was like, yeah, I thought that was you. He's like, fuck no, man, that wasn't me. So we go upstairs, and Brooke's like, was that one of you guys? And we're like, no, it wasn't. Nobody else is home. So to that end, we cannot explain what the fuck we heard that night.
Yeah, that's weird.
But it scared the shit out of all of us.
Were the pool balls out?
No, the pool balls weren't out. They were in the pockets.
Oh.
Yeah, that's weird. It's just
that's incredible.
That is weird.
Yeah, and all of them can verify that story with me. Like it was wild to see or to hear that, and then to have all of us, hear it and be like, "What the fuck was that? Was that you guys?"
That is weird.
I kind of want to speak on, because we were talking earlier, like something that happens when you're a kid, you can't explain it when you're a kid, but you might be able to explain it when you're an adult, but it happened so long ago you couldn't. I remember one time, I think I was in grade 5, I was at a friend's house for a birthday party, and I saw this it was like this orb of light would just kind of appear at a random spot in the basement, and it would just kind of shoot across the air.
Mm-hmm.
for like a second or two, then it'd be gone, and then it would pop up in like a completely different spot, and it would like shoot across another part of the basement for a second or two. And back then, I was just watching it, trying to figure it out, and I wasn't really that scared of it because at that
Mm-hmm.
time, even then, I kind of know like I probably just don't know what that is, but it's probably explainable.
Mm-hmm.
And fast forward about 15 years, I was at my friend's house in the city, and I was crashing in the basement, and I must have been like 21, 22 years old at this time. I saw the exact same thing in a completely different basement, and I had absolutely no idea what it was, and I was terrified.
Right.
I mean,
That
my
sounds
first
wild.
thought is ball
Yeah.
lightning, but
Because like now I know it's like it's that same thing I saw when I was 10 years old,
Mhm.
and I remember thinking back then, there's probably an explanation to this, and now like I'm older, I know there's no wires there, there's no nothing. It's like I have no
Right.
idea. I couldn't stay the night. I had to leave.
that's wild. Because I
I
know
don't, I
there
don't
is.
blame you. And to that end, so potentially you could say something would be following you theoretically, where a
Yeah.
lot of people would go. Now I see you guys in Pinwall. Looks like you fucks with the Ouija board.
Yeah.
Now most people
Yeah.
in this community would tell you not to fucks with a Ouija board.
That's all we've heard
so
from people so far.
And I'm gonna touch on this. This is something I've been debating for the last 2 days about. It's a little, I guess, a preview of the next episode that'll be coming out.
Mhm.
Is we were this with the thing with the two happened in a church, and we got pretty vulgar with the Ouija board this time. Kind of
Right.
trying. We were at the point where just like we were actually on our way to this place. We were talking about how like we want to provoke, but we don't want to offend anybody, especially if when we live in Steinbach, right? So
Mhm.
we kind of threw that out the window when we were in the situation and just went for it. And I mean, Jordyn was pretty provocative with some of the things, so it made sense why it happened to him. But
Right.
yeah, I think that maybe we went a little far with the Ouija board on that one. So I mean, it's a lot of people are. Even Nick was saying yesterday, he's like, maybe you guys are getting a little too deep, but we also want an experience to happen. And I mean, it did, but yeah, I don't know. The Ouija board is something that's it's pretty freaky. It's something I said I was never going to use, and then we've been using it and trying to get a little bit more crazy with it.
So
Right.
with the Ouija
Thing is,
board,
I have used them before, and they've worked. But since we've been doing it, we've had absolutely no luck on the channel.
And that's
I
another
kinda
thing.
got- yeah.
Like, if we don't know how all this works, like, is it because we're recording when we're using it? Like, it does, if something were to happen, does it not want to be? Who knows? Recorded, but then a lot of times we do shut the cameras off and we do test just for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we're doing it for us, right? So we do shut off all the cameras and see if something will happen then. But
Right. Have you
again-
guys done any like just straight audio recording, like with a separate recorder when you're doing a Ouija board?
not yet. We're trying to get a voice recorder. So we want right now we're trying to buy more stuff to get better quality, like visually.
Right.
But yeah, we want to get a voice recorder too, so we can just have that set aside for an EVP.
Mm-hmm.
EVP.
We have had some pretty cool EVPs happen though.
What's an
Yeah.
EVP?
Like right in our first episode, we clearly heard something say both of our names.
Spooky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like a minute in to watching any footage back we've ever recorded, and
Yeah.
like it's hard to hear, so I had to increase audio, but it's really weird. It sounded like both of our names to me, and then I showed it to Jordyn and didn't really say what it was, and then he heard it too, and he's like, yeah, clearly.
Oh, cool.
So I
But
mean,
that could also be what Reg is saying. It's like maybe
Exactly.
we're looking for that, so that's what we
Right.
heard. So
That's-
I
Maybe.
definitely yeah.
that's what I thought too. Like as soon as Reg said that, I was thinking about that exact scene. Like it's the power of suggestion. So I thought maybe it is. Like I debated it, I think for probably like 5 hours, like just as I was editing, if I'm going to even acknowledge that being said. And eventually I did, more or less just for somebody else to listen, so they know it's there, and increase the audio, let them hear it, and let them decide what they want on it.
It's cool. I mean, first of all, I want to know what an EVP or whatever you call it, whatever that is. But also, it's interesting when you watch those experiments that they'll do with, like, you'll stare at a screen and say it'll say a word, so your brain is focusing on that word, but then or it'll play a a noise or a word through the audio, but then once you start reading that word, it morphs into what you were reading as opposed to what you were hearing, and like your brain can fuck with that. Which I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's your brain. Our brains are super malleable. But what's an EVP?
EVP is electronic voice phenomenon. So it'd be kind of what Randy was asking about. If you have a voice recorder, you put it down and you just ask questions, and then, I mean, I guess it's known that they can speak to like a voice recorder that we won't hear with our ears, but when you play it back, you'll hear whispers and words to questions you've asked.
It'll come through like the static noise a little bit.
Yeah,
frequencies. Yeah,
exactly. And I've seen some that are really, really convincing. Like where it's one continuous shot, clearly no camera edits, and they're asking questions and they got a response back. And I mean, I've thought about a million ways how that would be faked and fabricated, and it's really hard to think about it, because when Jordyn, want to mute your mic for a second?
Yeah.
And then, like the hardest thing to fake with that would be, you're never going to ask the same question exactly the same 2 times in a row, or like a minute. Sometimes you do it for a minute long. You just ask questions for maybe a minute or two. You'll never ask those questions the same. Like your voice, your pitch in your voice will be different somewhere. You can't fake it the whole way through. So to get something, in a continuous shot where you actually hear something back, it couldn't have been pre-recorded. It couldn't have been faked somehow. So that to me the EVP is quite convincing to me.
That's interesting. You should check out. Not again, I'm no expert, but there was a podcast I listened to last year, I think. It's called Science Versus, and they did one on paranormal investigators or whatever, paranormal activity type stuff. And I think they do touch on that. So the acronym sounded familiar, but I can't remember kind of what the specifics were. So definitely check it out. If there's any other skeptics out there, definitely give it a listen and see if maybe they've uncovered something that I'm forgetting. But it's spooky shit. I'll give you that.
And then I also noticed, so you guys have a doll named Lorraine that you take with you. Now, is this named after Lorraine Warren?
It is. Yeah.
The second I heard it, I was like, I knew it.
Yeah, we have another one. It was originally Baby Ed, but it's a little girl. It's a little girl doll. So Jordyn decided to call her Reagan from The Exorcist. They're both like, every time we go to a place and we have to set these things up, it just freaks me out because I know it's going to go off, and they just sound disgustingly scary. When you're in the dark, like in a church or something like that, and you got to set this thing up and listen to that go off, it's just creepy because it just breaks the silence. Like, you almost feel safe in the silence, like it's just quiet. If anything happens, you can hear it. Then when the baby goes off, it's loud and you don't know what's going on around you for a second.
Yeah, and she's gone off at like the weirdest times too, like times where like we're so far away there should be no way that she could see us, but then we'll hear her. And there's been other times where we walk right in front of her and she hasn't done anything. So
I'm telling you that if this baby is going off because of us, it is the best made motion sensor doll on the planet, because there was one time where it went off this 2 days ago, and we were probably 100 feet away. And
we were on the other side of the church,
on the second roof, like a second story, like on the balcony of a church, 100 feet away, and this thing was facing in the different direction and it went off.
Were we, or were we just on the other side, like downstairs?
No, pretty sure we were on the second balcony as we came down from that noose area, and then it went off, and we're like, that couldn't, like, how?
Well, either way, we should have been way too far away for her to actually like see us, or like.
This is a Walmart doll. Like, how is it going off? 100 feet away. Like,
my
Bluetooth doesn't even go that far.
my first reaction is, one, either it's defective, or two, maybe there was a mouse. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, both those things are options. Like, anything's an option, and it's just weird when it goes off. Like, it would scare the hell out of me. Sometimes we're right in front of it and it doesn't go off.
Yeah, well, believe me,
right in front of it.
All of the explanations in the world would not keep me from being scared if a doll starts chattering in a dark, evil church.
Well, that's also whether it's effective or like a mouse or anything like that. Either way, we get scared in the videos, and that makes for better content. So.
Yeah, it's hard to explain to us in the moment, and then anytime that thing goes off, it just
logic is bullshit when it comes to that, for sure.
Makes your balls pucker a little when it grows up.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so we definitely got those. We would definitely want to get a couple more tests too. We have a bunch of ideas. Just everything. I mean, it's such a niche category to be in. So anything related to this is like $500-$600 plus.
For sure. I mean, when you want to get into like EMF detectors and thermal scanners and all that kind of shit,
it's all super expensive. Like it's just we just kind of do one thing at a time, and now we're selling like t-shirts and sweaters. So we have enough to like probably buy another piece of equipment pretty soon. So
nice.
Yeah, we're getting there. The merch has been doing really well for us because I know we're actually definitely putting a lot of thought so far into our merch. Not all of the designs that we're thinking of and stuff. We still have a few like on the way that are being drawn up right now, but we definitely want to have some of the best merch in like the paranormal investigation space on YouTube, because a lot of these channels we've noticed that they treat their merch kind of like an afterthought. Like it's generally pretty terrible. But Johnny and I, we both have like similar style, similar taste in clothes, and we know what we would wear, and I think we know what would be a really cool design for this market and stuff. So I think once we get all our designs onto our store, we'll have some of the best merch in the paranormal space. So that's only going to help us get better gear and more tests and stuff like that. So
and locations, because I didn't think that these places were going to be so expensive to rent. Like because we want to look at renting the Burton Cumming, we're pretty sure that that's going to be over $1,000. So stuff like that, like we were renting the Nanette Sanatorium where the tuberculosis center is. So we're renting that, but that's $250, and then got to get gas to get out there. Everything just I didn't really think of how expensive it was at the beginning, but so that's kind of why we're like, okay, we need to do merch now, even if it does good or bad, whatever. Everything helps for gas to get out there, this and that, all that. But yeah, definitely the Burton Cumming and stuff like that is going to be ridiculously expensive. And a lot of people say the MTS Center is haunted, so trying to get in there is going to be a nightmare. But
which is funny because it's a relatively new building.
2004.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, I mean, it's an old space,
True. That's true.
Because like, what was
Eaton
there before
building. The Eaton.
What was that building?
The Eaton department store.
Was it the Eaton building?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that building had a long history of being haunted, and they just built a MTS Center on top of it. It's kind of like in those paranormal movies where you build a house on an Indian burial ground. It's less haunted now because there's a house on top of it. So,
I guess if you look at the Paranormal Activity movies, all those are new houses, and they're just nice houses.
Yeah,
it's true. My house is pretty old.
But yeah,
I don't know. We actually had a house sitter, and our house was built in 1947, and it's got a bunch of random like little doors, and actually in Kat's closet room space, whatever, there's a little closet off to the side, and inside of there's little like kids' drawings on the walls inside this little closet. So it's super spooky. And we had a house sitter, and she's like, "I just stayed on the main floor. I'm not going anywhere. This place scares the hell out of me."
It is funny how just something like that in a closet that could be totally harmless, like I think sometimes in those situations too, we have at my grandparents' house in Cleefbelt, we have this little thing on one of the door frames of us and our heights and the dates and everything and how tall we're. In 50 years from now, somebody's going to see that owns the house, and then they're just be like, no, that's terrifying. I don't want to do it. Just because it's related to kids at a different time period,
It's always eerie.
It's just something about that is spooky, and it just doesn't even make sense with why, but it just is.
I wonder how much of that was created from basically movies like The Exorcist and, whatever, Rosemary's Baby and all these
Children of the Corn.
Yeah.
Children of the Corn, yeah.
I wonder if we've all been steeped in the tea of that type of zeitgeisty sort of.
Kids are fucking creepy to begin with, so.
That's true.
Yeah. It's anything to do with kids, like, and baby dolls and like little porcelain dolls. Anything to do with kids. Terrifying.
It's true. But I can't help
but they're imaginary friends that might not be imaginary.
That's what it is too. Is like, everybody always says, kids can see things like that.
Yeah.
Well, then I don't want to be near my kids anymore.
I'm waiting for the day Hallie comes up to me and is like, "Well, Toby said this was okay," and I'm gonna go, "Well, who's Toby?" Well, the boy in my closet. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh God, we gotta move."
Nick actually dealt with that a bit with his daughter. She was
Really?
saying she was seeing things, and then and he actually got a cat for her at the time, and obviously like stuff in his upper closet was like falling down, and in Avery was saying things like where'd the big man go, like the big man's gonna be there at night and stuff.
Jesus
Something to do with
Christ.
the tall man. And it's just like Nick is just a baby when it comes to horror movies. Like he watches through like a peephole when he's watching one, or he just won't watch him at all.
Yeah.
And it was so funny that it had to happen to him. And it's probably explainable. Like his cat probably just jumped off his bed, and tried to grab something, grab onto something, and stuff was falling out of his closet.
Yeah.
But to him, it's not that. That's not it. His house is possessed. He needs to get out of there.
Oh, fuck. I'm curious, when you said you were being vulgar with the Ouija board, what do you mean? Like you're just asking dirty questions to it, or not dirty, but like swearing at it and stuff?
I'm not gonna repeat anything that I said, but yeah, just trying to be as offensive as possible to try to get a reaction.
Okay.
I think he was more being offensive to religion in a way to try and provoke, like just saying trying to say you're not real, and not in those words, but you're not
sure.
real, or you don't exist and you don't scare him, and just kind of just playing it up a bit on the fact that he doesn't believe in religion, and just explaining that while you're in a church, he's hoping to get something. And that I think also talking like and being offensive to the person who might have killed themselves with that noose up there.
Yeah.
We're not sure if it was ever used, but I mean it was there, and there was a tipped over stool underneath it, so that was just kind of creepy. So we don't know what happened there. But
Right.
I mean, if on one of the because it's a ghost town, so on one of the buildings too, it says like death count, and then there's a question mark, and like visitors is like 6 or something like that. So we don't know if there's much death there. We couldn't really find a whole lot about it on online. Just that in the early 1900s there was a lot of death there.
If you want to
Yeah,
go
a lot
somewhere,
of a lot of kids died from smallpox, I believe, in that town.
Right.
So this was their location that we were going to find out if it was haunted. It didn't necessarily have a haunted history, but it just seemed like the kind of place that would. So we just wanted to check it out.
That's fair. You should go if you want to go somewhere super eerie. Go to Auschwitz or some concentration camp and you'll be probably bombarded with all of your experiences.
Yeah. I feel like I might be like bordering on disrespectful going to Auschwitz and doing a paranormal investigation video.
100%, it would be. So I don't think you should.
But that'll be how you get the views, is just being controversial.
Just Jake Paul that shit.
But we actually went to another place that we didn't post, but it was we'll call it the hanging tree. There was actually another person who made a video on it from Winnipeg, I guess. But there's a tree in the city, in Little Mountain Park, I think it was, and there's a tree where apparently they used to hang black people back in the day, is what we had heard. And then we saw another video of somebody else who had went there, so we were trying to find more information on that too. But during the day you can see the actual rope marks from where the ropes were, so you can clearly see that. But at night we couldn't get it on. We couldn't get any like clear images at night, but we had been there before, and that place is really weird too. There's not much story on it. Like there's a brief description on it, but not much. It'd be nice to know what all happened there. Just
nothing was substantiated about that place. It's just the tree itself looks really creepy, and it just stands out from all the other trees. Like it's this big, like I believe it's a cottonwood tree, and all the other trees that are in the area are just those little stick trees that you see when you're driving out to La Broca and stuff like that, like those kind of trees. So it really stands out. It's a really creepy looking tree, and plus those marks on it. There's just not a whole lot of like substantiated history behind it, or if it's just a creepy tree that people made stories about.
I guess that's the struggle, right? You could go to any or all of these places and get nothing. So you could rent all this stuff, you could travel and do all these things and get no useful content. So I guess that's a risk too.
Well, and for that one we didn't want to post it. Like it's I mean, with everything with going on with the Black Lives Matter and stuff at that time, this was earlier on. We just didn't want it to be a part of that, you know, controversy. Like, I'm sensitive towards that stuff, just like keeping your opinions to yourself and stuff. So to post a video on it just wasn't the right time to do that.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Speaking
but
of,
it is a cool place to go and see. Like, it's part of history, right? So to whatever happened there, I mean, it's just cool to see it.
Absolutely.
Right.
I did a
so for
walking
both
tour.
of you guys, what's your? Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, go ahead. Randy.
Just what's your? If you had to pick like a top place in Winnipeg that you'd love to go see, and if someone just gave you the money, said here, go do this place for a night, and if you had somewhere, you know, in North America, the world, what would be like your top 1 or 2 spots you want to go?
Well, in Winnipeg, definitely the Fort Garry Hotel. We cannot wait to get in there. And I think, are we going to do that this week?
I think that's supposed to be no. Okay, so this week it got switched. We were supposed to go to Fort Garry this next weekend, but we got Instagram message that somebody wants us to come do a home investigation at their house.
Oh, right.
So that'll be nice. She wants to give her testimony on camera and everything.
Cool.
So that'll be a nice change for us to do something there. And then the weekend after, we're gonna do Fort Garry. The Fort Garry, we've been given access that we can go through all these rooms, but it has to go back to Code Orange with COVID. Same with the Marlborough Hotel. We can go there. It has to be Code Orange, but we have access to the whole hotel then. And then same with the Macbeth House that we were talking about when we were kids. We have access to go there for the night to do it, but it has to be Code Orange as well. So we're thinking about just doing the Fort Garry lockdown, like a lockdown edition kind of thing where we're in the room the whole night and do tests. And then the next one will be where we can explore the ballroom and explore the whole hotel.
Right.
And as far as like, you know, favorite place or place I really want to go would probably be the actual Conjuring house.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, is that in Connecticut?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or Massachusetts, one of those, you know, East Coast states. But yeah, there have already been a couple of paranormal videos done. Like, it's now owned by a guy who's like really like huge into the paranormal and stuff, and he lets people, you know, come and check it out because, you know, he's right there with them, and as far as like his interest goes. So if I could ever like go there and like check out that house for real, that would probably be a dream come true.
It is in Rhode Island.
Oh, it's in Rhode Island?
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, I think Reg, who was it that asked in Winnipeg? Was that you, Randy?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah.
In Winnipeg, definitely, I would say, I would probably say either the Burton Cummings or the Dallenvert Museum. The Dallenvert Museum is up there in like it's pretty well known as being pretty haunted. But the only problem is you can't rent the museum, right? Like they have to have somebody there at all times, and I think you can only get in there probably till like midnight or something like that.
Right.
But definitely, if it was ever possible, there or the Ledge, because
that'd be interesting too.
haunted, but I've emailed them already, and they're like, not a chance in hell.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, there's like no way. It's not even you know, up for debate. So
a lot of sensitive information in there, I imagine.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, for me, the Burton Cummings would probably be my favorite place to do in the city too, in Winnipeg, because just that I've seen so many of my favorite bands there,
right?
And like knowing all my life that it's also haunted, just to be able to actually like explore it and go backstage, you know, see where all you know all my favorite bands like, you know, hung out. You know, my first metal show ever was at the Burton Cummings. It was, you know, Lamb of God and Trivium there.
Right.
So yeah, just to be able to like go to the spot where I saw my first metal concert and like look for ghosts, that would be amazing for me.
Just such a rich history behind it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, even with Reg saying the architecture in there is just amazing too. Like it's just it looks so nice, and it's just so appealing to look at. So even if you're like, that's another thing is we want better quality gear too. So even the places we are going to, we're doing them justice. Like we went to the St. Norbert Monastery, and just shooting with the Canon camera that we were shooting with does not do it justice. Like that place is beautiful. But I mean, when we're shooting at night and it's the camera we were using isn't the greatest with low light, and that mixed with it was snowing.
Right.
It's almost unwatchable, to be honest. Like it's hard to watch because it's just pixelated and stuff at times, and it sucks that it is that way. But I think like a lot of these places we're gonna go back to just to do them justice. You know, especially the places that we got stuff that happened to us that we can't explain. We'll definitely go back to those just with better quality. But I mean, it's just growing. You know, it's it's part of being in that learning curve and just starting from nothing. Starting with the lowest quality gear you can have and all that. So
Totally
Absolutely.
get
It's
that.
growing pains happens for everybody, right?
yeah, exactly.
You guys should try and get into the Garrick. It's closed. I think
Mhm.
I think COVID
It's
killed
closed
it. Yeah, I
for
think.
good.
Yeah, I think COVID
The
killed it.
Garrick,
So
the Garrick Center or the Garrick Hotel?
the Garrick Center, I think.
Garrick Center. I think they're using it as a COVID testing site right now, actually.
Oh, okay. We'll go in there anyway.
Are there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Go there and get tested and do a little investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be cool too, because that's another spot that I've seen a lot of my favorite bands at. So
Yeah.
I actually had no idea there was any haunted history there.
I have no idea if there is, but you can go look.
Just check it out.
It could be.
It could be.
If the
Yeah,
MTS
but
Center
I-
can,
I-
the Garrick will.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I actually just heard about another place I'd never heard about. Like some of these things, like the places we find, it's just amazing to find them because I feel like I would have heard about them. But I think it's called the Mather Walls House in Kenora. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about it.
No.
No.
I typed in I think it was Ontario or Kenora haunted history, and tons of articles popped up about this that I had never heard about this place ever. And I've been to Kenora hundreds of times, but it never somehow I never came across it. It looks
Right.
pretty cool though.
Yeah.
It does look cool. I'm looking at a picture right now. It's all yellow and like maroon.
You should
And it's
also.
like apparently in Kenora, just the spot. Like it's this, and it's I think to do a private tour is for $4.
Oh, shit, hey, look at that. Oh yeah, it's in the superstitious times here.
Yeah, it's
Huh.
weird. I'd never heard about it. That and then I think the Kenora Marina too.
Right.
So those are definitely places we want to, or something like the SS Marine, something, a boat there or something.
Right.
I haven't looked into it too much, but
No, I applaud you guys for getting into it because it's something I always kind of thought about as a kid too. Was going to these haunted joints, and the Fort Garry Hotel was always high on my list as
Mhm.
well. If I was ever going to do it, and I mean, of course, why am I forgetting the name of the friggin' prison now? What's that big
the
famous
On
prison
Street
in
Jail.
San Francisco?
Oh, in San
Well, that too,
Francisco?
but if I had to pick like a North American one, it would be
Alcatraz.
the hell.
Alcatraz.
Penhurst Asylum.
No, Alcatraz. That's the
I
Alcatraz.
said that.
Yeah, I said
Yeah,
it. three
one.
times.
Yeah, sorry, I missed what you said. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one I'd love to go check out, just because a bunch of shit happened there, and there's again a super rich history, right?
hmm I mean, that's the thing is if you're gonna get something like, you're probably gonna get something there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well,
You should
what
check
was
out-
that ship, the St. Mary in Los Angeles?
Queen Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yeah, Queen Elizabeth. It was one of those. Yeah, apparently that place is that's super haunted. That's pretty much anyone that goes there has some kind of experience. So
Right.
that would be amazing.
There's a house
Yeah, I'd
in
love to go there.
Winnipeg that looks a lot like the Mather Walls house.
It's called.
A very similar design. I did a walking ghost tour on Halloween. It wasn't by choice. It was a school thing for some reason. It was either you go on a ghost tour or she's like, I'll give you more work to do for the evening and you can do it at home. And I'm like, I'll walk around and look at old buildings. Sure.
Yeah.
But it looks
I
very
wonder if
similar
that
to
was the Macbeth house or was
Maybe.
it not?
It's right downtown.
Because the Macbeth house, sorry, go ahead. Where was
Yeah.
it?
It is right downtown off of shit. I don't remember exactly, but it's off. We went off Broadway. It was south of Broadway.
South of Broadway.
No, that's not the Macbeth house.
No,
That's in a different area. No, I'm not sure. I'm not
It's
sure
like on
what place-
like Spencer or something like that down in there.
I don't remember. I get all those side streets confused. But regardless, there's a lot there. You should also check out the Ukrainian church in Cooks Creek. That'd be a cool one to go and explore. I imagine it's haunted.
Cooks Creek.
Yeah, it's I think it's called that Cooks Creek, like Orthodox.
Canadian Catholic Church.
No, it's a
Give
Ukrainian
me 1 second. I'm
Orthodox.
just gonna run to the bathroom. You guys can continue talking.
They sounds
Okay.
good.
If you just search Cooks
Um,
Creek, the first thing that pops up is this giant ornate church. Maybe it is Catholic. I think it's Ukrainian. It's probably a branch of Catholicism, whatever. But it's a really neat looking
Immaculate
building.
Conception Church.
Yeah, that's the one. That's what it's called. So it is Catholic. Okay. You should try and get in there.
Yeah. Oh, that
That's-
looks. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. That looks really cool. Just absolutely beautiful.
It was
But
all hand painted by local artists, actually.
really.
Which is pretty dope.
Where is Cooks Creek? I've never heard of that place.
It's actually not that far. I'm trying to remember now. It's north of Beausejour, I think.
Oh,
It's
that's not
like
that far.
no, I think it's only like. Oh wait, we went north of Oak Bank, like Pine Ridge, sort of in that area. It's really not that far. It's probably 45 minutes from Steinbach, maybe. It's gorgeous though. Definitely go check it out.
Oh yeah, it's just like just east of Birds Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Cool,
I feel
cool.
like
I've
that'd be a
never
cool one to
heard
check
of that
out.
place.
And I hadn't either. I saw a friend of mine had posted a picture of it, and then I figured Kat and I were putting around on the weekend one time, and I wanted to go check it out. So I like to drag her to things she doesn't care about. So
So is it still like a functional church, or is it abandoned?
I believe
Okay.
it. I know it's still maintained. I don't know if I think they still have services. At the very least, they do have tours. Or pre-COVID, they did. When we
Sure.
went, they didn't. They were closed when we went, unfortunately, and we went a little bit too late. But you can tour the whole grounds. There's a grotto beside it with like a bunch of creepy Jesus statues you could check out. It's a pretty cool area.
Mhm. Yeah, some of these like old churches, like even just like looking around outside is just like really creepy too.
Yeah.
There's you guys heard of Saint Andrew's on the Red?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's apparently this super haunted church. I have not been there. I think Johnny's been there, but there's all sorts of like stories of like if you like walk backwards around the church 3 times after midnight, you'll disappear. And then there's like people see like glowing red eyes in the cemetery. It's got all these crazy rumors and crazy history attached to it. So
It doesn't
maybe
even look that
eventually we'll
creepy. That's interesting.
get out there. It's surrounded by a cemetery, which is
Yeah,
just
that'll-
creepy in itself.
That'll do
Right.
it.
St. Andrew's Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went there, and I mean, we had weird stuff happen, but we did the walk around the church thing. Obviously, we didn't disappear.
Obviously.
That is clearly not the case. That's going to happen. But we did go there, and I don't know if you guys remember Evan Jones
Yeah.
back in high school.
Yeah.
So we went there, and we parked in the parking lot across, and there was no cars nearby. And just as he walked onto the street, a car just came peeling around the corner and almost hit him. And so we hopped back in the vehicle and kind of chased it to see where it was going to go. And we never found the vehicle or anything. So that just happened as soon as we got there. Then we walked around the church, nothing happened, and it was whatever. We just were going to check it out, but Evan almost died. So
Well, apparently that's another thing, like a rumor or whatever attached to that church is like there's a phantom truck that like chases people away or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's that we heard about that. So that's kind of why we chased it. But by the time we got in the vehicle, it was like long gone. We couldn't even see taillights or anything. Like it was just
Right.
gone.
It's probably just an old guy that's pissed that people keep trespassing nearby his lot.
Yeah,
and he just
going to the
shit
church when
rips
they're
around.
not welcome.
Yeah, trying to take people out.
Or I thought this was the house of the Lord. Why are you chasing me away?
Yeah.
That's another thing too, is we don't want to like. There's places that we want to go to that are that you still need access to, even though they're abandoned and stuff, or
Mhm.
they're just old and they're part of the heritage, stuff like that. Like we don't want to be known to be trespassing on these places. So
Yeah.
even there's a couple places that we want to go to, and we could easily get into them, but we just don't want to be doing that. Like
course.
that's
wanna
where
be
it comes
reputable.
into play. Like you just have to throw money at it and email back and forth, even though it's there and you can go but
Well, it's
we don't want
reputation.
to
Yeah.
get in trouble.
That reminds me of a story that a friend of mine got really big into metal detecting a few years ago, and as everybody seemed to. But anyway, he and I, we went out to not Oak Bay. Oh damn it, where Providence Church is. What's that town called?
Otterburn.
Otterburn, and it was something. And we went out there, and there's an old church down the street from like when you're in town, and behind it there's kind of an open field, and then behind that there's an old blocky square looking building that supposedly used to house the nuns and whatever, the church members and their kids and whoever else. It's now, I think, apartment buildings or whatever. But in that field between, he and I just started going around. I held the shovel. He would go sweep with the metal detector. And we're like digging little holes in this open field, which is not public. It's open and you can go. But also we crossed over kind of clearly into church property. And then an old guy kind of strolls up and he's like, "Hey, you can't do that." Like, sorry, see you later.
You can't be out here digging up these graves, man. You gotta get going.
So I've done a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have, and didn't get haunted yet. So,
do you think that if you had an experience that was harder to explain, like let's say theoretically, if you came to one of these places with us, do you think there's anything that could change your mind, or do you think you'd always be a person that would just be quick to?
I would be quick to shoot it down because that's what I do. I'm an asshole, but it depends on what the situation was, right? Like with anything, I'm open to have my mind changed. It's just I haven't yet. So depending on what it was, if I can't explain it, I don't know if I would necessarily attribute it to ghosts or paranormal or anything, but I would happily acknowledge that I can't explain it.
Right. Yeah, the reason I ask is like because and this is just the reason why I'm asking is I got into an argument I think a couple of years ago with a guy who is a flat earther. And just to some extent that the people will, try and debunk things or try and stick to their beliefs. It sounds sometimes more astronomical than just to believe, that okay, maybe something supernatural did happen, or they'll just go into some crazy, way to debunk something that sounds even more crazy than just a spirit or something like that. And that I noticed with especially with the person I was having an argument on flat Earth with, he was just talking like it's like that sounds a lot crazier than just the Earth is round,
Yeah.
It's just, some people will just go to extremes to prove their point or just to debunk something or just make it what they believe.
Of course, yeah, with most things, yeah. But I try not to be that way, whether or not I can actually say.
Okay, so you could be persuaded if the right thing happened.
I think so. Paranormal activity scared me to my core, so I'm sure that if that shit were to happen to me, I could become a believer.
100%. Sounds like we're gonna have to have a crossover one of these days.
Oh yeah.
But see, that's the problem. I don't know if I could trust
the 2 Idiot Paranormies show.
Yeah. But I don't know if I could trust my experience in that way, because if I'm going into something with you guys, I'm going to be primed and ready to either totally dismiss it or be more open to accept it. I almost need to do it alone and just have it happen,
And when you do go with a group of 4 people, that's why we have quite a few people that want to come with us. But at the same time, first of all, we have our mic packs are meant for the 2 of us. So if something were to happen, if somebody else is making a noise and they don't acknowledge that they made that noise, like when we go through places, I think in the St. Norbert Monastery there, I stepped on something and I acknowledged that I stepped on it. Yeah. Had I not acknowledged it, anybody could have said, okay, well, I heard that, because I asked, can you tap on the wall? And then I stepped on a twig or something and it broke. And I mentioned it. But if you have 4 or more people, then somebody might not mention something that happens. And then when you're just listening to audio and you're just watching a video, people are going to be, analyzing that and just, I heard something in the background. You didn't explain what that was. So it's got to be something.
Right.
You have so much going on, so many people making noises in these places.
Well, especially if you have people that aren't as into it. I'm right on level with you guys, right? So for me, it would be if I make a noise, I'm going to say I made that noise, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you have people that want to come with you just to go that, might fuck around or whatever, then it's hard to bring bigger groups like that. Yeah, and then if Reg was there, it'd be very easy for Reg to dismiss everything too, because you have 4 people going. Yeah. It would be a lot easier to dismiss things. That's why you have to get something that happens to you, or you'd have to see something happen that clearly nobody was doing it. Something being pushed over or thrown or something that you couldn't account for. It would have to be something extreme.
Yeah, it's just hard to, I guess, get into that mind frame because I'm pretty staunchly where I am, or I'm just used to where I've been, because I've been to a lot of creepy places, and I've been scared of the dark since I was my whole life. And I've always ran up basement stairs, at my grandma's house, no matter what. It's just walking upstairs is the scariest thing you'll ever experience, even if there's no reason for you to be scared of it.
To this day, I systematically turn off lights anywhere I am.
Yeah, likewise. But that said, it takes, I don't know whether I go into these experiences and I don't know if it ever would, but if it were to happen, because we went to Europe and I went into, I find religion fascinating. I find churches, the architecture is gorgeous, and the history of it is amazing. Well, it's interesting. It's not necessarily amazing, but there's a lot there that if I were on that wavelength, I'm sure I would have been a little bit more creeped out. Maybe I don't know. So it'd be interesting.
I actually have a story that it just came into my mind that happened, and this is another one where it's kind of like you guys can tell me what you think. I had a hard time dismissing it, but I also had a very easy time dismissing it. It was like really weird. So I don't know whose birthday it was, but we had a birthday party at our house, and somebody brought those helium balloons that are like tin, like that, those like that weird metal, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we had one of those that was sitting in our front entranceway, just sitting up on the ceiling, and it was there for about a week, and it was still full of helium, so we just left it. And there was one night where my youngest daughter, she was sick, so she puked and she got it on herself at night, so we had to give her a bath. So my fiance took her out, started bathing her, and then she wanted me to go get clean change of clothes from the basement. So I quickly ran down the stairs, and then I ran back up the stairs and went into the bathroom. And about a minute later, this balloon had floated from the front entrance up the stairs and like through the kitchen, down the hall, and into the bathroom, and it tapped me on the shoulder. And I thought, okay, maybe, just because I ran, there was like a wind tunnel that was, behind me that pulled it all this way, but that had never happened. And we had it right in our front entrance. So like right when the door would open, like, and the breeze would come through, nothing ever moved it. It sat in that same spot for a week, and it touched me on the shoulder, and we both looked at each other and freaked out. And we're like, how would it have made it around like 4 or 5 corners to get into the bathroom? And then there's a funny part of this story, because I started freaking out, and I run out of the bathroom, and I look in my daughter's room, and her crib it was in the corner of the room, so it was right along the wall. And then I look in her room, and her crib's in the middle of the room, and I freaked out, and I was like, okay, everybody, I'm out of the house. I almost ran out of the house, and before I did, I asked my wife, like, did you move her crib? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, thank God, I was about to have a breakdown here. But even the balloon thing just itself, like, that could easily be explainable with science, right? But for it to happen that time, like when we had opened that door and closed it, and, have the draft going through, because I think it was summer, so we had windows open and everything, and that balloon did not move for a week, but for it to move then, it was a weird one, and we both just kind of freaked out. Yeah, because it had to come around like 5 corners just to get to that spot. But I mean, it could have happened.
I think it's more fun
with the fact that I ran up the stairs and ran to the bathroom.
Yeah, I personally think it's more fun to think that a ghost did it than what I actually think happened.
It is more fun, but and in that situation, I didn't want to, because I was like, I don't want anything happen here where I live.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, yeah, it's just a weird one. Like, it happened at the perfect time, in the middle of the night. It could have happened during the day, but it didn't. So that's why it was a little more creepy. But that's why I had an easy time dismissing it, but I also had a hard time because it didn't move for a week. So it was just fun to think, what was it?
How do you go forward with, and we can start dialing it down. We're getting kind of close to an hour or longer. But how do you, with kids, how do you walk that line between not scaring the hell out of them and making them aware of these things that you've experienced? Have you thought about that a little bit?
I definitely have. My daughter loves anything related to ghosts and stuff. That was before we even started doing anything like this, and we already have to monitor what she watches. If she's watching on like even kids YouTube and stuff, like even if she's watching a show or whatever, she always wants to watch stuff with zombies, ghosts, and stuff. And then she has times where she has horrible nightmares and stuff because it's like that. But it's just, we try and find, like, it is a fine line, but I think the more fine line is if something is real, because we're not still 100% sure, what this all is. We don't know everything about paranormal activity and what's out there, and don't have all the answers. The one thing I'm more scared of is if something is out there, to have to, the chance of it coming back home with me, with using a Ouija board. So, even just like, I'll still most of the time keep the Ouija board in the truck, just because I don't want to bring it into the house. Whether or not that's doing anything, I have no idea. Whether it's just more of a safety thing, but it still kind of freaks me out that it could, if something is out there, it could be drawn back to the family and the kids and everything.
For sure.
If it is, if it's not, eventually we'll find out. But
what's wild is that used to just be a board game, like the Ouija board in like the 80s or whatever. Every family just had one, and it was just a fun thing to play with.
I know, and it's just weird. Like I mean, the one we have is Hasbro. You know, it's like,
Yeah, right.
I don't know how this thing got its reputation of being the most haunted game on the planet, but or why they even created it. You know, what was the
Monopoly should
reason
have
for
that
creating
title.
it? You know.
Yeah. Monopoly has destroyed more families than Ouija has, so we should probably just
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Randy, what do you think? What I know you believe in this type of stuff, but does Darius kind of how are you going to navigate that with Hallie?
Darius is definitely a believer too. Neither of us are skeptics. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think back even when I was a kid, and like my parents never really outright said like, "Oh, ghosts are real, you're fucked." But it was, but I think yeah, exactly. But no, in our family, it was never really a big deal. We're always kind of sort of a not religious, but we're always kind of spiritual family, I guess, in a way. Like we don't really believe in organized religion and that, but my mom had some experience as a kid. I think she played with a Ouija board with her friends once, and some kind of weird shit happened that she didn't really like. So she hasn't played with one ever since then. So you wouldn't even be able to bring yours near her. She'd fucking curse you and send you off on your way. So it's just always been kind of like a known belief in my family. We never really openly talked about it, but it's just sort of something that everybody's believed, and so I don't know what exactly I'll do when Hallie hits that age and she starts talking about it, or something happens and I have to kind of attempt to explain or try to explain in my own head what might have happened. But I'm gonna be open with it. I'm saying, hey, this is kind of what mommy and daddy think, and it may or may not be, but you can make your own decisions.
It's fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sounds like religion.
Yeah, it's a weird subject too. Like you don't want to, if you believe it, you don't want to dismiss it away just because you don't want to try and explain it to your kids.
And you don't want to scare them either, right?
Exactly. You don't want to scare them, and you don't want to lie to them. So I'm just hoping my kids don't ask too much about it. But yeah, I'm just gonna give them the old dad, go talk to your mom.
Yeah. That's always the go-to. Just go ask somebody else.
Yeah. Go ask somebody else. Yeah. I don't know. I honestly have no idea what I would say to my daughters if they asked, but I would just hopefully that they're at the age where they can kind of take in that kind of information.
Yeah. That's fair. Anyway, let's start down here. First, before we go, thank you for joining us. Props to you for starting, for creating the channel. Everything looks pretty good. Sure. I like the quality. I mean, I have no experience in this, but that's great. But I want to tag. Yeah. What's the first of all? How do people find the channel? How do they find your merch? What's your social media? All that jazz.
So I think that the easiest way would be if they go to our Instagram. Paranormies was taken, so we went with Paranormies Official. That's our Instagram name, and we have my links there in our bio that you can get there. From there, you can get to the YouTube, to the Facebook. The Facebook we haven't really done a whole lot with as of yet. We've been so focused on the Instagram, the YouTube, and the merch. But in my links, you can get to the YouTube there, which is just Paranormies, and go from there.
And obviously, if you just want to watch the videos, that's fine too. And you can just search YouTube for Paranormies, and we're finally one of the first search results that come up. So
nice.
For the first channel that comes up.
We had the same problem.
Sure. There's a Paranormies podcast, and they're not doing anything like what we're doing, and it's not trademarked. So
fuck them.
Fuck them.
Bigger than them.
Yeah.
Yep. You take over. We did the same thing when we finally started putting videos on YouTube. When we first started the show, it never even occurred to me to check YouTube because I'm an old man. But so we came up with the name, all this crap, do it for like 2 years, and then go to YouTube, and there's like 6 Two Idiots podcasts on YouTube, but most of them haven't made anything in like 5 years, and they only have 8 subscribers or something. So we
that's another thing that kind of freaked me out too. There was one night where I didn't even think of that. I thought for sure nobody would be using this name, and then I saw the podcast, and we got a comment on one of our videos saying, basically that we're idiots, and that they're like, this name is taken, blah blah. You guys are bullshit. And then I stayed awake till like 3 a.m, like panicking, like we just put out a bunch of shirts and stuff. I'm like, are we gonna get shit for this? And then Jordyn looked into it a bit further, and he's like, no, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's
fine. Like names can be shared, like as long as they're not trademarked. Like I don't know if you guys know this, but like Metallica, before that was a band, it was a magazine. And Lars Ulrich stole that name of the magazine for his band, and pretty much the magazine had to call themselves something else, or they just went under. I have no idea, but names aren't always original. Sometimes somebody comes along and they take the name and they do it better.
For sure. That sounds good. On that note, again, thank you for joining us, boys. This was fun for me.
Well, it's been a blast.
Folks listening, check out their content. Go to YouTube. Follow their Instagram. I just followed you guys back. I didn't even know you followed our Instagram, but look at that. We're friends now.
Yeah, a little while ago.
Yeah.
I think it was right around the time that we started talking about this, and I was like, oh, yeah. I had no idea you guys were up to 2,500 to 2,600 followers already. That's awesome.
Man, we're killing it, bro.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Well, coming from where we are, it's like, like 580 or something right now. Like 2,500 seems like there's a lot of work for us to get there, but.
Oh, you'll surpass us, in a week or two.
All
Don't
in due
even worry
time,
about
boys.
it. So keep killing it, keep crushing it. Keep finding ghostly apparitions and such.
The truth is out there.
We're gonna get you on the other side of this, Reg. It's happening.
The first experience I have, I'll let you know. You pop my cherry.
We'll use that Ouija board and get a spirit to come to your house.
Please don't.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll be doing the Ouija board in your front yard this
You
week.
should definitely do not. My wife believes in this stuff, and she'll leave me.
So Kat's a believer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least on some
awesome.
level. I don't know exactly how specifically, but she definitely, I don't know. Yeah, believes in some of that.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining us. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you guys
Thanks,
very
boys.
much.
Thanks for having us. Take it easy.
You bet. Cheers.
Have a good one. Bye.
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 Wow. The truth is out there, Randy.
The truth is out there. Do, 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 do.
That was a good time. That was exactly as fun as I hoped it would be, and it really was. It
was awesome. Yeah, I've been a believer for a long time, so for me it was nice to chat with some like-minded folk about it.
Yeah, and it's good that they're not staunchly one way or the other, right? Like they're not running, heads first into it as though it's the truth or it's the thing or whatever.
Yeah, they're doing it right in that they're not skeptical, but they're also debunking as they go. They're not trying to fool anybody.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. So this, we should probably say happy holidays, folks, because we're getting pretty close to Christmas. So
yeah.
Hope you have a lovely and safe holiday, whatever you celebrate, as distant as you can be. Let's try and keep the COVID under control.
Yeah, it sucks that Christmas has to be a bit different this year, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yep. Anyway, folks, check them out. Check out their stuff. Buy some merch. Maybe I'll have to buy one just to be a poser.
Do it.
And so then check us out. Check us out at Two Idiots Podcast on Instagram, Two Idiots Podcast on Facebook, Two Idiots Podcast on YouTube, and Two Idiots Show on Twitter.
And doubleidiotspodcast@gmail.com to get us by email. And if you'd like to, go to patreon.com/2idiotspodcast. For as little as $3 a month, you can help support the show, and we got a whole bunch of goodies on there. We are going to start reading out, all the comments, questions, and that we get on Patreon. So feel free to hit us up and help out the show.
Absolutely. And Patreon members at the $7 tier or above get a special shout out as a thank you from us on every episode of the Two Idiots Podcast. A member of the Two Idiots Hall of Fame, if you will. Our current member is Danny Dewick. So shout out to her. Thank you for supporting the show. We love you. So if you're interested in getting your name heard on future Two Idiots Podcast episodes, do the same. $7. It's not so bad. Not so bad. We'll shout you out as a thank you. So, thank you. And speaking of merch, we'll eventually get ours running again. Get some new designs, get some stuff going. It's been a work in progress, and hopefully we get some more. Oh, awesome!
We'll figure it out.
Awesome. Okay, folks. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Johnny and Jordyn for joining the show, and hope you enjoyed.
Absolutely. Happy holidays. Bye.
Goodbye.